Hey guys, it's Rian again. I'm joined today by our local legend Chris Bright, and we have one of the most, I'd say, prolific jiu-jitsu players in the world at the moment, Craig Jones, joining us all the way from. You're in New York at the moment, Craig, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, New York, Corona Ground Zero.
Yeah, we were talking about, everybody's so negative around that whole thing, but it seems like things are obviously nothing's normal at this point. But I mean, you guys are going ahead. I'd ask what you've been doing for the last couple of months, but we saw your match with Vinny competing quite a bit. I know you've got another match coming up at the end of the month. How are things at the moment? I mean, how's training going? How's the situation on that side with you guys at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, my life hasn't changed. Luckily, I'm still training every day. I competed twice during this pandemic, but I guess regular life over here is pretty different. I think it's the same everywhere in the world. Everything's closed down. New York gets a lot of publicity, I think, because I've had so many incidents and so many deaths and stuff. So people take it pretty serious over here. So obviously, jiu-jitsu, we've had to train in complete secrecy. But I mean, that's about it really in terms of my life over here. But I'm just one of the lucky few that it hasn't changed.
What is for you traveling up and down? I mean, is your home base at the moment in New York, or where are you based? How's traveling? I mean, obviously that's a bit of a hassle with everything going on at the moment, but just in terms of your day to day, I mean, what has actually changed, or not really that much?
So I decided to move to New York to train full time just before the pandemic hit the US. So luckily, I rented an apartment in Hoboken, right by Henzo's and stuff. So I got set up, and then the world shut down. But it was perfect timing, really, because it would have been hard to go see an apartment, go see a real estate agent, all of that stuff would have been tough. So I really hit it in the perfect time. So then for me, for daily life, I just get on the train, head into the city, train in a undisclosed location. Lift weights at that same undisclosed location, and then catch the train back out of the city. But I mean, the weird thing is the train's completely empty. So when I first moved here, it would be complete chaos. So in a way, that's almost a lot nicer experience being on the New York trains when they're empty.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we're obviously never going to get to see you and Gordon again.
No. I mean, if you can't beat them, join them.
I guess in every podcast, every time you speak to someone, you probably get asked the same question.
Yeah. Everyone always asks me about it. There's a lot of people on the internet that always keep tagging me and Gordon, when are we going to have another match? Which is curious to me, because it's they know enough about jiu-jitsu to know we competed against each other, but not enough about it to know that we actually train together every day now.
Yeah. I see you're being trolled a bit by some 10th Planet guy.
Yeah, you know what? Ever since Chael Sonnen, when he started running his event, Submission Underground, over the years, it's always taken a bit of heat. People will be they don't take it too seriously. He'll experiment, he tried the tag team stuff, and at the high level, the tag team sort of failed. He has these real short rounds, 5-minute rounds with EBI over time.
Yeah.
A lot of the big take that, but because he's the only guy paying anyone in professional jiu-jitsu in the and I'm the only guy can basically, I think 8 cards in a row, almost in the main card spot. Everyone's just started calling me out nonstop, especially over the last couple of weeks.
You've become the jiu-jitsu Conor McGregor, except you don't speak like him.
No. I try to be a bit more indirect with my responses. Gordon will just be he'll just tell him idiot or whatever.
So it looks like you've got Lovato coming up in the near future.
Actually, you know what? Here's the funny thing about Chael Sonnen with his promoting. Chael, when I beat Vinny, he was like, "Oh, I've got a message from Lovato saying he wants Craig on the next card." So Lovato never messaged him at all, but Chael does that, plants the seed, and then he tries to convince the guy to take the match later. So Lovato didn't really want the match and stuff. I mean, maybe one day. I think Lovato messaged and said if he could have a proper camp when the pandemic's over, we could do a match.
Yeah. I think you're a bit of a tough match for anyone, but especially the conventional jiu-jitsu guys, where then they're coming from a bit of a gi/MMA game. Your type of game now, the guys are left behind. It's very difficult, even though they're really good at jiu-jitsu. It's just a different ball game.
yeah, if you've trained for 20 years in a certain way and for a certain rule set, for you to adapt to like leg locks or EBI overtime is going to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I even find that spending a lot of years in MMA, coming across and trying to like they've all just taken their different directions now. Like once upon a time, you used to do like MMA jiu-jitsu and go and do no gi and gi, and they all were kind of similar. And now they don't even look the same anymore.
Yeah, not at all. I actually do prefer the MMA style grapplers to train with before ADCC, because ADCC you're going to have to like take a guy down or sweep him, and you're going to have to pin him. And a lot of MMA guys, as soon as their back hits the floor, their first goal isn't to try and submit, they're trying to stand back up. So that old school MMA style training is actually really good for ADCC, but probably not very good for EBI when the guy can just pull guard and wait, or submission order, he can just pull guard and wait for you to come into his guard.
Yeah, that negative pointing. Rian's going to have to edit the order of this video because it looks like I'm asking all the questions up front. I've got so many things I want to ask.
Look,
I'm supposed to go down this way.
I'm a journalist. Look, you're the MMA guy. He's the jiu-jitsu guy. I'm just directing traffic. You know, I'm just the one hosting a meeting, so it's fine.
Like you mentioned that and playing to the rule set. I was actually watching your ADCC final again. So I was sitting watching through that, and like you were very unlucky in that match. But that's kind of an example of the guy just playing to the rule set and you know, trying to get a point here and there and survive the match. And
yeah, it's very tough when people compete like that. Obviously, guys compete like that because they want to win. The gold medal obviously means the most to them. They win by any means necessary. I don't think they take a lot of pride in how they win. And the problem with that is that if you're going to win and you're not going to submit a lot of guys, you're probably not really going to make a lot of money or make a name in the sport, which is like, obviously me and Mateus had a very boring match. And the problem I found with Mateus is very talented and he could pass my guard. He could submit me, but he doesn't want to take any risks at all. So that's the sad part about it. What could be a really good match, he won't risk anything.
Yeah, but you see a lot of that at ADCC. Wherever you have a rule set that's designed to kind of create exciting matches, you're going to find another guy trying to use the same rules to make it boring and play the points. You're always going to have that, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing, really. Like, you can do that, you can win the gold medal, but like, I think typically earlier in jiu-jitsu, the accomplishment meant the most because there wasn't really a DVD market. Seminars, guys would just go to a seminar if they brought a famous guy to the gym. But nowadays, when you have so much social media marketing and stuff, it's not enough to just win. So if you look to the last ADCC, you saw Tanquinho, Mateus Diniz, JT Torres, all won the divisions. Yeah. Lachlan Giles lost first round in this division, got bronze at Absolute, but because he put on incredibly exciting matches, and it was sort of like, it's the narrative that creates the star these days, more so. Like, a lot of guys would be really excited to see a guy like Lachlan Giles come to their gym. They want to learn from a guy like that. Whereas those old school guys that sort of edge out the victories, they're getting left behind, especially in the financial aspect of the sport.
Yeah. And I've been that guy. I used to be that guy that would grind out a 2-point win, run around the mat afterwards like I'd won the Olympics.
I think
I'm getting old, so I take my wins where I can get them. I'm going to let Rian ask a question or two because I'm going to carry on.
No, I think that's important what you're saying. Like, in the past, you had these guys, so you go on social media and you see his bio, it says, 3-time ADCC champion or 7th degree black belt, or it says EBI champion. And yes, that's important because it looks cool. But like you said, you can just post a video of your fight. And now no one's going to read what your bio says. They're going to look, shit, this event looked amazing. This fight was amazing. So they'll go and check more of your stuff. And I think that's more building a brand now than the accomplishment of, you can lose an exciting fight. But I mean, if it's exciting enough, both those guys will get more credit and more opportunities going forward than just a guy that can go, oh, I've won 6 times in a row, by grinding out a 2-point or an advantage or whatever.
Well, that's interesting. It's actually probably, like, in my career, that's one of my biggest regrets is I spent too much time worrying about whether I won or lost. and it causes such like pressure that you don't really get to look back and enjoy your career and just kind of go for it. Yeah. It was like so stifling back in the day.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, the older you get, I always think like the older you get, the more half guard you're going to play. So it's going to naturally become a more grinding style of game. But you're laughing at that.
Tell me, Craig, with you, like you said, now I'm not going to get into where you guys are training or anything, but I mean, how is training going at the moment? I mean, obviously you're limited with training partners and that sort of thing as well. You've got an event coming up at the end of the month again. Is the frequency at which you compete also a way of you to just stay in shape and just to prepare? Because I mean, you're fighting against top level guys. Is that also just another way of you preparing for the next event?
Yeah, kind of, for sure. I mean, I want to keep competing. Chael Sonnen is actually probably one of the shows that pays the best. And having just moved to New York with super expensive rent, I got to keep competing to pay the bills and stuff. But like training every day is actually, because the group's so small, only really elite level guys are getting invited to these sessions. So in a way, the single training session we're doing it right now, we're learning more technically and getting harder rounds than maybe the 2 sessions we'd traditionally do when we train as a group. So I would think I'm actually improving more now than the regular schedule.
Yeah. Where you had like a whole mat full of guys and it's just a rotation of people, but now you've got a small group of high level guys and everybody's looking to improve, not just, like you said, grind out some rounds, but you've got a lot of guys that are now, well, a small group of guys that are now there that are, I'm assuming, other competitors, guys that are doing it at a fairly high level.
Yeah, for sure. So like at the moment I have to roll with like Gordon, Nicky Rod every day, Nicky Ryan, like all really the elite level competitors. The guys that sort of their careers depend on continuing to train, whereas the guy that has the full-time job and stuff, they're sort of left out of the gym for now. So I mean, really, it's brutal training sessions and stuff, but yeah, learning a lot from it.
Yeah. You mentioned rightly now, you know, the moving to New York, getting all these training partners, getting guys that are high level competitors. Looking back now, I mean, what is your journey been like? I mean, obviously there have been a lot of things you had to, I want to say, give up. You're not living at home anymore. I mean, what's your road to becoming one of the best in the world? You know, what has that road been easy? What have been some of the bigger challenges you faced?
Just a lot of sacrifices and a lot of, I guess, lucky breaks. But yeah, the obvious daily sacrifices would be really, I guess, relaxing and enjoying your days. You know what I mean? Like taking days off regularly, going to the bar, partying and stuff. Obviously, sacrifices like that. Because like at the moment we train like 7 days a week. But leading up, I had to leave my home city and move to Melbourne. And in my home city of Adelaide, it was sort of like a pretty comfortable life. I had to work a job and stuff, but it was pretty comfortable. I had to move to Melbourne, move into like a really shitty apartment. I remember there weren't enough teaching hours and stuff, so I was living on next to no money at all. There was one time where I was only eating eggs and vegetables, some crazy diet like that. I lost a lot of weight and stuff. The only classes available for me to teach were like the 6:30 a.m. classes. So I do all my competition training at the night classes, and then I'd have to get up however many hours later to do that morning class. And it was physically brutal, but I was still enjoying it. And then obviously while you're making all those sacrifices, you're still going to go and compete, but it doesn't necessarily translate to competition success. So to be like, you'll be making all these sacrifices and you still go and compete and lose, but it's just hanging in there long enough to get a lucky break. And then the big lucky break for me was, I guess, EBI and ADCC. And once I got some sort of success in the media, I would get a lot of buzz in the media. That opened the door for seminars, better sponsorship deals, and life was more comfortable. But in a way, it was still pretty stressful because it was like everyone in jiu-jitsu has such a short memory. Like I know when I was trying to break through, I would always see a grappler break through, get a lot of buzz for maybe 3 to 6 months, and then they'd completely disappear. They'd start losing. Everyone would forget about that guy. So the real challenge was, why I had it good, was still making sure to train as hard and still deliver competition success to stay relevant. That's been my goal ever since EBI and ADCC, is rather than be just a one-hit sort of wonder, is to maintain that and keep getting better.
No, that kind of brings me to something I was going to speak to you about for young fighters and young grapplers coming up. Did you have a conscious decision in terms of your media profile, or did one thing just kind of lead to each other after your successes?
In terms of how I got a lot of buzz in the media and stuff, I think it was sort of a bit of luck. Like, luckily, being Australian, and actually, I was completely unknown before I beat a big name. It was sort of like the perfect recipe to create a lot of excitement online and stuff. And people really turned me into a meme. And then my marketing strategy was just to run with that meme in any way I can to keep trying to build upon the bullshit stories they were putting out there and stuff. But it was really a lot of luck, because I know, like, one of my teammates, Ethan Krellenstein, he's incredibly talented. Like, he'll submit me in the gym. He goes out and competes. He's pretty damn consistent when he competes, but hasn't had the same love from the general public and the fans and stuff yet. And it's hard to really work out why. But yeah, it's a really tricky thing to try and work out how to market yourself correctly in the sport.
That's a funny thing. Your the nice guy persona, was it something that you kind of consciously decided on, or is it just kind of something that you do naturally? Because I know there's a lot of trolling that's going on at the moment. It's kind of taking a bit of an MMA route, but you've never really crossed the line with anyone. No matter what they say or do to you, you kind of always kept it clean, and it's funny as well.
Yeah, so I think it's like an Australian thing, because I know me and my buddies, we would always roast each other. We'd say horrible stuff to each other, but it'd be in a very friendly sort of way, right? And the game was always like, if we're being mean to each other, whoever actually gets angry first sort of has lost the battle. You know what I mean? They let the emotions get the better of them. So that allowed me to prepare myself for this sport. So even just recently, I've started talking a little bit more, sort of creating a bit more excitement for the matches. But the difference is I'm not going to be too direct and just too blatantly mean. I'm going to try and make it entertaining. If I'm going to call someone out on something, I really want it to be funny. I don't just want it to be hurtful. So I started making videos now. I've been trying to pick on, who was it, Josh? And obviously Vinny was going to get picked on. He said leg locks didn't work, and then his leg got broken. So I couldn't resist saying at least something with that. And then there's a guy calling me out now, this Quinton guy who, he loses consistently all the time, but he's called me out for years, and he just doesn't understand that you have to work your way up. You don't just call out.
But there's about four or five edits of him getting footlocked along the way.
Yeah, he said he's the best leg locker in the world, and then all of those leg locks from the last 2 years too. So it's not even like I'm dragging stuff up from the past.
I'm surprised Dylan Danis hasn't called you out yet.
Oh, that would be a great match. I actually do appreciate what Dylan Danis does, because it's so obvious he doesn't believe any of the things he's saying, but he just runs with it. Obviously, Conor McGregor was a huge influence on him, but I got to give him credit. He got the fame from Conor McGregor, but he just ran with it at the expense of really what the people that knew him before he started this persona and stuff, they sort of know that's not really Dylan Danis, but he's happy to take all the heat online and keep running with it.
It keeps his name there, I guess. But I think a couple of guys have mentioned the same about Gordon. I mean, he trolls quite hard. Like, pretty much any jiu-jitsu thread that I've been on lately, I see Gordon pops up somewhere. And he will comment. And apparently when people have met him, and I've asked you before, and you say when you actually meet the guy face to face, it's a persona. He's not really like that.
No, he's not like that at all. And the thing with him is his online arrogance, in a way, is for a purpose. He's trying to hype matches because, I mean, the basic measure is if you post something, your interaction on the post, you want high interaction. It doesn't matter whether it's in support of you or shitting on you, really. And his goal is for every post to get a lot of interaction, and the interaction really leads to him getting bigger paydays. So I think he's not really like that in real life, but he just was like, I'll make the sacrifice. I don't really care what people not in my circle think of me, but if I can sacrifice my own image online to get paid more and grow the sport. And really, when he talks shit to you online, it grows your profile. You're going to probably get paid more as a result. So even though he's saying mean things, in a way, it's helping everyone. But it's to the extent of who's willing to sacrifice it and to what degree.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's quite interesting. You guys have taken polar opposite approaches, but yet you kind of both, you know, it's your name that's mentioned pretty much on every forum. If someone's talking, they're talking about Craig Jones, Gordon Ryan, and you both had such different approaches to your media, which is quite an interesting. I think MMA guys nowadays think you've got to really trash talk and be mean and say, like, cut deep to get publicity. They've seen Conor McGregor play that game, and they think that's the only way to go about it.
Yeah, and actually, you know what's interesting? I just trained with Henry Cejudo recently in Miami, and there's another aspect to this that I didn't think of until that point. Henry Cejudo, up until a point, he didn't say anything really. He was just nice, respectful, but he wanted to get more attention, wanted to get paid more. I guess he just wanted to be more well-known in the sport, so he started creating a persona. And it was a persona that he would talk a lot of shit, but he told me that the second he started talking shit, he realized that he needed to train super hard to not eat his words. He puts it out there knowing that if it goes bad, it's going to go real bad. He said he's never trained harder in his life than when he makes statements he has to back up.
Yeah, that's true. You need, yeah.
At your situation at the moment, you've got, like you said, you've got this guy trolling you, and then you go and post a video of like 4 leg lock submissions in a row. I mean, that's exactly what you're getting at. It's like you can't go online saying I'm the best leg locker, but all these submissions are like, look like your leg's getting broken. I mean, that's backing up all the shit talking. You have to.
Yeah, you definitely have to be able to back it up. Like, I mean, I get where he's coming from. He is a good grappler, but he's like, anyone can have their day in grappling. If you compete long enough and you train hard enough, you're going to have good days in competition, but it's consistency that defines the top level guys. Gordon Ryan's, I think, he's rarely ever lost. The only people that have beaten him at the high levels, like Philippe Pena, Vinny Margalesh, honestly don't even know anyone else. It's like, it's the consistency that separates you from the others. So even if you're a good, talented grappler, he could have the potential to submit me, but the way you earn the match is to show consistency. And it's like, he just hasn't had that yet. So he's trying to make statements to get media attention to get a match he doesn't really deserve.
Yeah. So you kind of been giving us Western grapplers some hope, you know, like out of the non kind of conventional jiu-jitsu places. So we kind of look at you and you're our shining light. You know, you're not from America, you're from a little place. It's kind of like South Africa, where it hasn't been known for. I mean, if you look generally, we all know like Australian rugby and cricket and hockey is not that good. So it's just behind South Africa. So the way you went about it was obviously intelligent. And I was listening to some stuff you put online where you were talking about the way you kind of developed your game and broke it down. Could you give like the guys listening just a little bit more insight into how you got so good training without training with the highest level guys initially? How did you make that jump?
I always talk about it like if old traditional black belts don't like what you're doing, and what you're doing is effective in the training room, or you can see it being effective in competition, you're probably heading in the right direction, right? Like, I mean, you could just try and make your game wrist locks, but if there's no evidence wrist locks work, you're not wrist locking people, then that old black belt that's telling you to train the basics is probably pointing you in the right direction. But like, I recognize very early, seeing Eddie Cummings and Gordon Ryan and stuff, they were able to beat guys that they ordinarily wouldn't have been able to beat with traditional jiu-jitsu, but they were able to do it with basically new technology. So it's really trying to identify the upcoming trend and trying to be ahead of that trend. But again, it's very difficult to do that, and you could put a lot of your energy into a wrong area. But always throughout jiu-jitsu, it's always been the case. It's like we've had deep half guard. A lot of old school black belts hated that when it first came out. They probably love it these days, but they hated it when it first came out. 50-50 guard was hated. The Birambola was hated. Worm guard was hated. Heel hooks were hated. All those areas were sort of new technology that were traditionally hated by the old school black belts. But after they were deemed to be effective at the high level, they just were absorbed into the game. But if you knew 50-50 guard before the rest of the jiu-jitsu community, you'd have a huge edge going into competition. And that would apply to all of those. The Mendez brothers destroyed everyone with the Birambola. That put them ahead of the curve and that defined their careers. So it's sort of like trying to identify the next trend.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the next next place I'm going. I see a lot of guys are talking about the way you're merging current jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Like a lot of people think it's going to go that way, and like the scramble game. What are your thoughts? Like, where do you think it's headed?
Yeah, 100%. I think for sure that's the way the sport's heading. I mean, ADCC is very, very hard to score points in. You have to pin an opponent. You basically have to, like in a freestyle wrestling match, you have to be so much better than the other wrestler to be able to pin him. Like usually you get a guy to a more of a neutral position off the takedown and score some points and stuff, and then the referee will reset it. But very rarely do they pin each other. So ADCC making the definition of a takedown or sweep to get literally most of their upper body on the ground for 3 seconds is incredibly difficult. So we have to adopt those wrestling techniques that help us to try and pin our opponents, like new ways to control, new ways to score from those positions. But we also have to blend it into jiu-jitsu, because like a head outside single leg is not going to be very effective, or jiu-jitsu is going to have a different stance, because for one thing, we can't stay crouched down. Wrestlers don't have to do that for a very long period of time. I mean, my match against Denise was, I think, 30 minutes. I can't adopt a wrestling stance for 30 minutes. And also, we can stand a bit higher because, say, in wrestling, they have shoes. If I was against a wrestler with shoes and I stood upright, he could shoot a blast double and just run me to the floor. But in jiu-jitsu, without the grip of the shoes, that's not quite going to be as effective. So I think the new trend is going to be an athlete that can merge those two rule sets perfectly. Techniques.
Yeah. Well, I think you become a good poster boy, because you're like athletic, but like you got guys like Nicky Rod on the far end of the scale. That, he could get by with very little technique possibly, and I don't know. He's obviously getting good, but he's just such a freak athlete that you kind of represent your average guy that works really hard and is intelligent, that gives people hope. And you look at that. I can never be Nicky Rod, but maybe if I was a bit smarter, I could be closer to Craig. So I think you've done wonders for our jiu-jitsu there.
Yeah. Well, Nicky Rod brings across from wrestling, probably wrestlers are way mentally tougher than jiu-jitsu guys. Like, I feel like the way they train is way tougher. The way they go after each other is way tougher. The way they use pressure to break people is way more of a consistent factor in wrestling than it is in jiu-jitsu. So what Nicky Rod brought from wrestling was that mindset where he's like, he's just going to try and break his opponent. And he's never going to shy away from his game plan. The crowd could boo, people could be saying stuff, but he's going to stick to the game plan. He's like, the mental toughness is what I think takes Nicky Rod over the line. It's easy, you look at him and immediately you're going to be intimidated because of his size and how quickly he can move that size. But having trained with him, I think it's the mental toughness that's the strongest factor for him.
Okay. Yeah, he's a scary guy.
Yeah.
He's probably going to head in an MMA direction one of these days. I think he's that guy.
He just heads wherever the money is, honestly.
I have a feeling, even if he's not a good boxer, you probably don't want to spar with him either.
No. And actually, you know what? The way we're training right now is the way John runs the classes is we do a bunch of technique. We drill a bunch of technique. Could be any number of techniques. Traditionally, in a normal class, it'd be 3 or 4. And I have to drill with Nicky Rod. And then the first round we do of positional sparring is mount. So each and every day I have to start under Nicky Rod's mount, fresh from drilling. It's brutal.
Well, no, he's going to hold you after that.
And there's no warm up, right? So like the other guys around the room and stuff, like they'll use that first round. They'll like flow a bit, like the mount round won't be too hard. But with Nicky Rod, it's to the death every time.
So you show up to like events and go, I'm not scared of shit, because I was under Nicky Rod's guard, under his mount for the last couple of weeks, so no one can actually do anything to me because I've survived him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what gives me like having a guy like Nicky Rod, he's basically just like, if I get underneath him and I start to sweep him, his immediate reaction is to turn and run, and incredibly hard to hold on to the guy. And in training, he'll take his rash guard off. The guy will have moisturizer on his legs and stuff. So it's like, although frustrating, it is the ultimate test, like I think he's probably the hardest man in all of jiu-jitsu to control. I don't think there'd be anyone more explosive. So although it's very frustrating, it gives me hope that if I can control that man, I should be able to control anyone else out there.
So Nicky's like the absolute man, except he moisturizes his legs. That's all I got from
Yeah. He moisturizes regularly.
Luckily, I'm all the way over there, so he can't do anything about it now. Rian, you better ask something, otherwise I'm going to hog this whole interview.
He's going to come for you, Chris. Nicky Rod's going to hear this. He's going to say, who's that guy from South Africa? I'm going to find him, show him my legs and kick the shit. Craig, what I want to check with you, like you said, you've got an extremely tough training room, a lot of guys there. Obviously, at some point, a lot of big egos come into play, maybe not amongst each other, but especially when there's, we were talking about the trash talking, a lot of guys taking it very seriously, but how do you guys cope? I mean, so many high-level competitors, so many egos, and so many just amazing athletes in one room. I mean, is there ever any? Do you guys take things a little bit too seriously? Are there some heads bumping every now and then, or what's the vibe like in your training room?
Surprisingly not. And you know what? Like, one of the things that really showed that to me is, right, obviously we prepare for EBR overtimes. So we prepare starting in bad positions. And obviously we do a lot of bad position sparring anyway, right? But the fact that the replay showed that to me was when we do armbar escapes, right? A lot of gyms, basically, you separate the grip, the arms at extension, you tap straight away. And typically that's because, like, you trust your opponent to apply the armbar, right? But what we know from competition is an arm isn't going to break until the person getting armbarred stops moving. Very rarely will you see a guy doing a hitchhiker escape or trying to sit up and his arm snaps. The arm only snaps when the momentum stops. So basically, I used to always train that if my arm gets extended, I tap out straight away. But no one applies arm bars properly. They apply arm bars technically, but they don't apply them to the break in the gym, right? So we get plenty of time to always try and escape the arm bar. And the drill becomes, if I try to apply a hitchhiker, the guy applying the arm bar is just going to look to apply a technique that stops my movement. So he'll transfer his feet in different ways to control my movement. So I'll always have time to attempt a hitchhiker, attempt to sit up. And then when I can't move anymore, I tap to the arm bar. And I know a lot of gyms, it wouldn't be too easy to train like that. No matter how much you trust your opponent, when your arm reaches full extension, you're like, I better tap just in case. Yeah. But we all apply arm bars we get the arm to extension and we try everything we can do to stop their movement. And that really highlighted to, like, looking back at my match with Gordon, why Gordon has so much faith to escape my fully extended arm bar and why I didn't have the finishing mechanics to completely break his arm. I definitely did some damage to his arm, but he competed the next weekend, so it wasn't that bad. And it's because they train to not tap to the armbar until they can't move anymore. So it's like, hey, you couldn't have much ego in the training room like that. It's more us against them. There's a lot of ego against other teams, but very little ego amongst each other.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I think
you've worked with some.
Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
You've worked with some pretty cool coaches in your time. You were with Lachlan. You guys are obviously still mates, and now you're working with John.
Yeah, now I'm with their enemies now.
I see Lachlan and Gordon always having goes at each other on social media. It's quite funny. Yeah.
I mean, it is funny. It's a little bit just for publicity, I guess, because I know Gordon definitely respects Lachlan and respects what he was able to do with ADCC and stuff. Like, he'll give him compliments and stuff. And I mean, speaking more to the ego in the training room, is like Gordon would tap every single day in training, literally every single day. And in competition, he's tapped 2 times ever. So it's like he does allow guys to get very, very good positions and submit him in the gym. He's able to, like, separate the ego from Instagram to the training room, which a lot of people would assume he wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah. Well, that's why he's got so good, I guess, hey?
That's it.
Yeah, looking at John, I mean, I suppose he only works with fairly elite athletes at this point. Sometimes I look at his posts and being experienced in jiu-jitsu, I can understand what he's saying and I kind of relate to it, but I don't know if I was brand new to this thing, if I would really be able to keep up with John.
Yeah, that's a good point. The way he teaches in the training room or on his DVDs, I personally believe he teaches instructionals and he sells instructionals to appeal to the lower belts, to appeal to white and blue belts. But obviously, when it comes to a specific technique, an advanced technique like leg locks, you could be an advanced belt in jiu-jitsu, and his leg lock instruction is still going to appeal to you and white belts that are interested in the topic. He can teach to both. In the training room, he teaches very complicated sequences very quickly. And the way it works is that he's teaching to the best guys in the room. So he's teaching to his squad. And I mean, the lowest belt in the room would be a blue belt, but the information funnels down. So like the best guys get it. And as they're practicing the move and doing it, if someone needs help, the information will be passed down student to student. So sort of if there's a blue belt struggling in the room, he might look to Nicky Ryan or something and ask for a pointer, and Nicky Ryan would adjust it. But the idea being is that the information should funnel down. There's no one too lower level in that class. He's not teaching to any white belts or anything like that. And if someone is in the room that is not good enough, John will tell them to go to a different class at Henzo Gracie's.
Yeah, otherwise I guess it slows everyone down. Jiu-jitsu technique's a funny thing, because sometimes you see something but you're not quite ready to take it in, and then you see it a year later and all of a sudden it just like kind of absorbs and you go, oh, there it is.
Yeah. I wanted to check with you, Craig, as well. Like you talking about the techniques and how certain guys pick things up, and looking at that squad you guys are training with now, and obviously the best of the best. What sets that squad apart? I mean, like you've got, I think that the lower level guys there could compete against some of the top guys in other places. What is it about that setup, about that environment that just breeds these absolutely phenomenal jiu-jitsu athletes?
Well, I mean, I used to think of the term system as a marketing strategy to sell instructionals. And for sure, classifying something as a system definitely helps sell instructionals, right? But the difference is, as a squad, we all utilize the same techniques. We get to the back, we do the same stuff. You know what I mean? If it's just the lower level guys don't have as big a grasp on as much technique as, say, Gordon does. But we're all going to do the same attacks. We're going to do the same escapes. We're going to do them all in exactly the same way. It's sort of like a hive mind. We're all working together against the enemy, the other teams, right? Whereas a lot of places I've trained around the world, every team is full of a bunch of individuals. Everyone has their own style. Like if you looked at Atos, like Kainan Duach and Lucas Barbosa are going to be two completely separate entities. And you might look at Danaher and say, well, I mean, Nicky Rod and Gordon are two completely separate things. But Nicky Rod, the techniques he does use in competition, especially non-wrestling techniques, are going to be very, very similar to exactly what Gordon does. He's going to get to the back. He's going to do the same grip breaks. He's going to do the same types of strangles. He's going to do the same arm traps, the same escapes. So I just think it's like we come together as one against the others, whereas most other teams are going to be a group of individuals against other teams.
And
that's cool.
And how often would it happen that, because I know John's the head coach there, and obviously you guys take lead from him, but how often do you guys maybe identify something and go, maybe we can move in this direction, and is the rest of the team like accepting of that? How do you guys develop new techniques? And I mean, obviously it's continuously developing. We seldom see you guys doing the same thing for too long. I mean, how is that natural progression? How is that development happening within your squad?
Well, say when we finish rolling every day, we'll gather in a circle and people will ask John questions. That'll be even Gordon asking questions. And the high level guys might ask a question in a sense of, from here, I'm struggling with this, I'm trying to do this. And then John will guide them. But the beauty of having John there is, like, a lot of people would think it would be a negative that their coach can't roll anymore. But really it's a blessing, because he's watching each and every roll every day. And he's seeing things happen. Like he might even pick certain matchups to happen. Like he might want Gordon to do this round with so-and-so. Or if there's a visitor, we're definitely going to utilize that visitor a lot as a test. It's almost like a competition test. But then John sees what happens in each and every roll, and he'll base the next day's class exactly around that. John also does a lot of research into the trends of the sport. He might come in one day and he'll give us some statistics on the ways a single leg takedowns finished, or the ways a single leg takedowns defended in freestyle wrestling competitions. So he's just watching and influencing. And what the crazy thing is because he can't roll, I never see him drill anymore. But he'll identify a new technique he's seen in competition and teach it perfectly and do the movement perfectly. But he's just watching and making adjustments, making small adjustments.
Okay. I know you don't have long left, so you need to almost get off to your next thing. So I basically just got one more thing. So when you get to the end of your career, like you're quite an intelligent grappler, so obviously you'll become an intelligent coach at some point. So if you were looking to build a jiu-jitsu robot, and I've heard loads of different arguments over the years, what's more important for success? Do you have to be, are you a specialist or a generalist, or do you have this defensive foundation? If you were to, from the ground up, coach a beginner grappler, so for all the guys out there, how would you put that together? So if you were going to start from the bottom up and build someone, what do you reckon is the way to go? What should they be looking at to make the biggest changes?
I honestly think it's just mindset, right? So everyone's starving for immediate success. Like a guy, he wants to win from white belt on. He never wants to lose at white belt. I would just say that I would want to tell that person, be like, listen, the goal right now is success at black belt. From white to brown, they're the amateurs. They're going to feel very important to you in the moment. And those losses are going to hurt very much so in the moment. But the goal is long-term success. We want a long-term, well-rounded, successful grappler. Being a specialist is definitely going to help you win at the lower level. It's going to help you even sell instructional products at the highest level. It's going to help you make money. If you're a specialist at black belt, like especially a leg lock specialist, people are going to want to buy your DVDs. They're going to want to do seminars and stuff. But if your goal is to dominate the sport, then we want a well-rounded grappler. So I would say just no matter what, remember that white to brown are the amateurs. Nobody remembers. Like I always say, nobody remembers your losses until they're on BJJ Heroes. You know what I mean? No one's going to remember who you lost to at brown belt. No one's going to remember the YouTube match someone uploaded where you're getting submitted at brown belt. Like anyone that says they beat Gordon Ryan before black belt, no one's going to really care that much. So the important thing to remember as an individual is that they're the ranks that you build well-rounded skills and you build confidence in all areas of competition. I really think it's just a mindset to go out there like that, consistently practicing new things, consistently practicing your weakest areas in competition. Because otherwise, you're not going to have time to fix up the holes at black belt. Once a hole gets exposed, it's going to get repeatedly exposed. It's going to take a long time to adjust.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful advice. Thank you.
Last thing to
anything else from you?
Yeah, just last thing to look ahead. We know you've got a match coming up at the end of the month against Roca, I think. What's coming after that? I mean, anything else in the pipeline so far?
Well, actually, I saw Chael. I haven't spoken to Chael yet, but Chael wrote something on a comment last night that on June 21, they're going to have a $10,000 8-man tournament, and the winner's going to get to face me on the following event. So I think that'll be the goal. I think maybe I'll compete on June 21 too. I think May 31, Wagner Hosha. I think June 21, maybe Lucas Barbosa. I think that'll be a real fun match. And then obviously that night they'll have the tournament to get my next opponent. Obviously Chael has a lot of faith in me to have a tournament to get a face against me when I've still got 2 matches before I'd have to face the winner.
But yeah, exciting stuff. It must be cool to be considered on that level that he'd actually build a tournament around you. I mean, you're one of the highest level guys that are competing at his event at the moment. So I mean, that's your sort of. Do you feel like you're sort of his draw card at this point? This is you're the person people come to see.
For sure, I know. In terms of the business plan and stuff, I know Fight Pass lost a lot of their content when ESPN took over the UFC. I think a lot of the content filters through ESPN first. So Fight Pass sort of had a bit of a void for content. So I know they started focusing more and more on grappling based on how many viewers they got, especially Quintet. I think Quintet was one of the craziest events they've ever had on Fight Pass. Yeah. So then they've directed a lot of that at Chael Sonnen. They put a lot of faith into his show. And I know Chael's goal is to really build a grappling superstar. So that's like, luckily he's put me in that position. But again, it still is a lot of pressure to constantly perform every time under his show. But again, it's a very, very privileged position to be in. It's good to work with Chael too, because he's sort of like promotional genius.
Yeah. And then the last thing from me, just your thoughts, maybe if you want to venture, just throw something out there. We've got the first UFC in a while, some big matches coming up. Anything specific?
Oh yeah.
Any specific matches you're looking forward to there?
Honestly, I'm just excited to see some live sports again. Really, like I think I've been the only athlete in the world competing during the quarantine.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting to me is to see how the guys look on comp day, because like their camps are going to be all over the place, and I really hope that none of those guys are competing just because they need money. I hope they're competing because they're still able to do a training camp and they still want to compete. But it is like it is a dicey sort of thing. But I'm obviously really excited to see Cejudo Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz, what did he retire for 4 years? Comes back into a title shot.
Yeah.
So there's good business opportunities amongst the coronavirus chaos. So Cejudo's got my respect for the joke he made yesterday, because Jose Aldo was complaining he missed out on the title shot, and Cejudo's like, "I'll marry you to bring you over to the US for this fight."
Nice.
What do you guys think?
Cool,
who do you guys think is going to win the main and co-main? You reckon Gaethje, Ferguson, or Cejudo or Cruz?
Man, I'm nervous of sticking my neck out, but I've got a feeling for Gaethje. Like Ferguson's a real like come forward fighter, but I think Gaethje might have the better of the hands. I don't know, but generally, if I bet, I generally get it wrong. So
yeah,
so Ferguson's probably going to win then. But I think Gaethje's got cleaner hands. He doesn't mind that kind of a dogfight, and Ferguson kind of walks on and he gets hit quite a bit. So the potential's there for him to get floored.
Yeah.
I think with Gaethje, I think something he put out when the fight was announced initially, he was like, if he doesn't finish the fight in the first 2 rounds, then Ferguson's probably going to cut him up and it's going to come to a doctor's stoppage or whatever. So I think he's right. I think he's going to come out like a bullet out of a barrel, in the first 2 rounds and see if he can stop the fight. But Ferguson's so freaking unorthodox, man. You never know what he's going to bring to it. He might just go full on grappling on him, trying to take him to the ground. I don't know. I think it's going to be one hell of a violent fight, but I think it's going to be a fun one to watch, definitely.
And Cejudo is he's such an athletic guy, and he's such a strong like bundle of muscle that I think he's like a really tough prospect, especially coming off a long layoff. I don't know if Dominic Cruz has really got the firepower to stop him. I know you've wrestled with him, so he looks like he's quite a flippin' handful.
Yeah, he's in good shape right now. I saw the pictures he put up. He looks jacked.
So, like, coming forward, and he wants to put a couple of blast doubles. He's going to keep you scrambling for 5 rounds, no problem.
If Cejudo approaches the fight a lot like he did against Demetrius Johnson and just keep grinding on the ground and take him down, I think Cruz is going to have his hands full. I think it's going to be a tough one. I think he's going to have a tough night at the office.
Yeah, I'm the same as you guys. I think Cejudo and Gaethje got this.
You think so?
Yeah, I also think so. But then if I've bet that, so you're probably going to get it wrong now. So I'm sorry.
I just feel like Ferguson, Habib's cursed, so it's never going to happen. So Gaethje's just going to come in to disrupt that. Like, it's just cursed somehow.
It doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah.
But that whole card,
thanks.
From start to finish. Yeah, sorry, Chris. Just that whole card from start to finish. You've got that fight. You're going down the line. Even the prelims. I mean, there are some insane fights coming up. But yeah, that's this weekend. We'll keep an eye out and see what happens.
As soon as the world returns to normal, we want to get you back to South Africa. I think just the guys really love having you here.
Oh man, I can't wait to come back.
Yeah, it was very cool. We'll keep you in PE for a couple of days this time. Then we'll try to keep you here for a week, and then other guys can come here and travel.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. Guys.
All right, Craig, thanks. We appreciate it. We know like everybody wants to do a podcast with you, so thanks for your time, man.
Oh, no worries. Good to chat.
So, all right, great. Cool. Thanks so much, Chris. Thanks so much, guys. And we'll catch up again. Everybody, keep an eye out. UFC this weekend. Craig Jones, end of the month in Submission Underground. So some big stuff coming up. And we look forward to chatting to you again, Craig. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate that.
Cool. Cheers.
No worries.